You may be asking yourself, who are you, Jay? Why are you doing this? Do you really care about video games? Well, let's start with the most important one. Hell yeah, I care about video games. It's probably one of the most important things in my life. I always have. I always will. My background, well, I started gaming when I was in my single digits, not more than 3 or 4. And that was pretty rare because I grew up in the 80s. So that was not the most common thing at that time, especially on PC. So that's that's a ways back, and I have many gaming stories to tell. But what matters today is that gaming is under threat. Gaming is imperiled by bad, questionable, and malign industry practices. Everyone knows what they're about. All the other YouTubers and content creators are talking about it. I tend to approach things, I solo play shit, okay? So I've been approaching these same issues for a long time, but not in the spotlight. So I'm a veteran of Gamergate 1. I remember many of the people involved. I interacted with many of them on Twitter. It was basically a war that happened over Twitter, leading up to 2016, which is a very interesting year. That's the year that the Ghostbusters movie dropped, and a lot of industry, entertainment industry attention turned on their consumers, the organized press and the media, and it started to become a very different type of scene, one where the industry, some of the higher profile industry people and press just laid into their fan bases. I mean, in a way that was just never seen before. That year ended. It's very interesting. It was the year of Brexit, and it was the year Trump was elected for the first time. Very interesting year. I participated in Gamergate 1, not as one of the high-profile people, but as someone who did things to raise awareness of some of the issues that were involved going into it. Gamergate 1, like Gamergate 2, was brought about by the poor actions of industry and industry adjacent. That's like, the gaming press and promoters. Okay, people that may not necessarily be devs, but are working in tandem with devs. Okay, so industry affiliated personalities basically laid into a guy called Eron. All right, that's Eron, not Elon. All right, so this is a guy who was himself a dev. He is still a dev. I don't really know what's going on with him these days. I wish him well. He was unfairly attacked after he published a pretty scathing, pretty fiery, acrimonious breakup, as these things sometimes go. Diatribe, right? Like a monologue on everything he felt was going wrong with in his relationship and in the gaming scene that was kind of like he and his ex were involved in. It's kind of gossipy shit. That's not actually my real focus here. Just to be clear, that doesn't exactly interest me, but it's part of history. I will discuss it. And so what came out of that is the press, the gaming media, basically circled the wagons and came out against Iran in the most, the most incendiary and scathing fashion. They did him dirty, okay, and granted, it was on the basis of kind of a breakup scenario, so it wasn't a good look to begin with, but he didn't deserve that, and more importantly, he was bringing to light. All right, he was bringing to light issues that were around the gaming industry promotion practices at the time, where there was a lack of disclosure, there was questionable conduct, influencing or potentially influencing the game reviews going out, um, shady practices around the free passes to get the game right, the keys to distribute. There was some access questions similar to things that are happening right now. Again, um, it brings back a lot of memories. A lot of things change. Things also stay the same a lot. And so that was, for some people, it was all for, in Gamergate 1, for some people it was all around a breakup, it's drama there, and for other people it was like, all around a scandal with respect to the video game industry, particularly. There was political, social issues that went into it. But for anybody that's like a diehard gamer, dedicated gamer, the thing that most came out of it, the most important thing for us, for most of us, if not all of us, was the exposure of these issues with the promotion of games, these issues with the manipulation or the potential influence issues behind games promotion. There was lack of disclosure, things that actually, 100%, 100% Gamergate 1 was successful. Anyone that tells you any otherwise, I'm going to disagree with hardcore. Um, Gamergate 1 was a success. The FTC revised its guidance. That's a U.S. federal agency that regulates basically commerce, and the way that certain marketing is handled. Okay, and especially in press and media, they actually revised their guidance on that, and nowadays there has to be disclosure when you get a game for free, right? If you get a game for free and you review it well, or whatever way you review it, it should still be disclosed, right? Like you need to know if that reviewer may be being compensated for that review. Simple, right? That's like just market fairness and disclosure in advertising. And going back to Iran a little bit, even though it was in the form of like this really fiery breakup letter or whatever, the fact of the matter is, like an open letter, the fact of the matter is, he was exposing something that was an issue. All right. And no one gets a pass, right? There's this like very, very familiar saying people hear all the time now, no one is above the law, no one is above the law. Okay, well that's fantastic. Okay, yeah, no one is above the law. So then that means there's going to be broad and uniform application of the law, right? Okay, that's probably not the case if you really look at it. It's maybe never been the case. But that's, maybe it should be the case, especially for the types of people that go around promoting that kind of slogan, right? That kind of motto. That's like, okay, where's the action to make that actually true, as opposed to like just very, very much cherry picking, selective enforcement. So the issue here is industry refuses to look at itself in general. The gaming industry press chose to circle the wagons and concentrate fire on Iran for pointing out these issues, right? These issues with the shady practices, and they chose to scapegoat him, and make him, a little bit of a martyr for people that actually believe in, market integrity, that actually believe that games reviews should be in earnest, based on the creative and fun value, the play value of the game. It should be for gamers, basically, come from gamers, people educated in it, and that's to say, you play it. That's how a gamer gets educated in gaming. You don't go to school for it, and oh, here's the charts, and here's the resources, and here's the integrated development environment. Well, no, no. Maybe you could produce it that way, but gaming is, you do gaming. That's how you learn about gaming, and a lot of the people involved in the industry, at that time, that were getting involved, and a lot more now that are now getting laid off en masse, have, we'll put it this way, questionable ties to gaming. I'm not painting with a broad brush and saying, oh no, they're not all gamers, or they're bad gamers, or they're not enough of gamers. Some are, some aren't. But there's like a shitload of like devs that don't know their oats, all right, about gaming. They don't have the background. They don't necessarily live the life, right? It's kind of like, pick up the pumpkin spice and schedule the yoga, and oh yeah, these assets need to be produced for art for the game, and oh, we have a bunch of tickets that we need to check back on to see if these bugs are fixed, and that's fine. I mean, that's fine. It is a job, but gamers are lifestyleists. I mean, this is our life in many cases, right? Like, this is what we do. When we're not working, um, we're gaming, right? When there's free time, there's gaming. When we're not gaming, we're probably researching what games are coming out. We're researching what the next hardware is. Um, this is our life. It's a culture. It's real to us in a way that a paycheck, a job is often is not, right. It often does not amount to this. It doesn't have the same impact. Our lives don't revolve around career focuses in quite the same way. That's not to the exclusion of that, right? Because gamers manage to do both. Some work super hard and then game super hard. But for many of us, the gaming is definitely the feature of our off time, our off hours. That's how we entertain ourselves. And for any devs or anyone industry adjacent, journalists, whatever, so-called journalists, if you want to speak to us, if you want to speak to our interests, talk to us, it would benefit you, and it's kind of a requirement that you know something about the culture and the community that you're addressing. Also, there's a market there, right? But rarely are markets in commercial and advertising terms addressed in such a confrontational fashion as gamers have been by the media for coming up on a decade now, right? We're talking 2016 to now. Um, I'm gonna try to wrap this up into like not to be entirely the history of Gamergate, because there's a vast amount more that I could go into about that, and will. But long story short, that was a conflict I was involved in on the pro Gamergate side, and I'm coming back. I am part of Gamergate 2.0, because the way I see it is this is necessary. It's a necessary thing. A lot of the great people that were involved in Gamergate 1, um, they've moved on with their lives and gone in different directions, especially the big personalities, prominent personalities involved. I know of or interacted with a number of them, still do, indirectly. Right, the internet is a little pseudo anonymous, so I don't necessarily be like I'm not going to name them exactly, but I mean there's a couple that you could definitely offhand. Carl Benjamin is up there. He's a very public figure. I recommend that if you're interested in the history of this, in the history of that conflict, essentially, you look into some other people's reviews on here. The first Gamergate, in spite of being a success, was not a complete success. It's important to be able to qualify it, because victories aren't necessarily all unqualified victories. You can win a battle, you can even win a war, not necessarily come out of it without losses, right? Without maybe compromises in what you want. Um, Gamergate 2 can be prosecuted a little more effectively as a conflict with organization. With organization, the outcome can be more coherent, can be more controlled, and can be more effectively delivered. Something that we can't have if we all act independently and have a principal focus on entertainment, which there's nothing wrong with. Actually, many of the VTubers, I'm going to give them credit in the thread. The like the personalities that are out there right now have done some amazing work, and there's going to be criticism of them. There's going to be a whole lot of praise, and there's going to be a lot of the praise is merited. Some of the criticisms might be as well, but when it comes down to it, there really is one singular opponent in this, and that's really, from my point of view, that's the so-called gaming press, right? They're there to shit stir. They're there to inflame opinion. They're there to create viral marketing incentives through manipulation of people's emotions. Okay, that's what the gaming press does. All right. Games do move a lot of product on their own, simply because it's entertainment. It sells itself. Okay, but what what some marketers have discovered is that by agitating certain demographics, right, market demographics, they can actually get a tremendous amount of free publicity, just on the basis of those attacks. All right, they've been able to isolate certain markets, certainly more on the male demographic side, sometimes politically, maybe more right of center, but a lot of the time that's a straw man. Okay, a lot of the time, the people that are referred to as chuds, the people that are referred to as incels, and a variety of other slurs and insults. It doesn't even fit. It doesn't really fit the picture. What we're dealing with is a malign, um, insidious, and multifaceted, multi-part viral corporate viral marketing campaign directed against us, and this has been the case for some time. Okay, this is not new. This is something that really came about in earnest around 2016, as I was getting to before, and it's just kind of metastasized. It's just kind of worsened in the years since. Um, the fact is, it died down because we won. Because we won. Gamergate won. Gamergate won was a tough conflict, and there were losses. There were compromises. There were some people that went back on their views on both sides. Some people multiple times, a minority of people, but that happened. It was a mess. It was a tremendous acrimonious conflict, and there were a lot of good people involved, and it was a very confusing and confused time. We can do better this time. Okay, gamers, we can actually, not to say dictate, because that's kind of what we're fighting against, in my opinion. We can, by working together, determine the outcome. Right? We can make it more certain, just by organizing in a coherent fashion, cooperating on an organized basis with clear objectives, clear common interests in mind. We can bring the industry to deal with us in a way that is respectful and that actually accomplishes distinct goals, reaches distinct outcomes, where there can be consensus, broad consensus, and there can be broad agreement that can be reached by all, or at least by many parties. Okay, this is collective bargaining is not exclusively a labor concept. Okay, there are collective bargaining is part of like the union idea, right? People know about unions in general. That's usually for employment. Well, there is such a thing as a buyers union, right, or a buyers club. Okay, and gbamfs is organized, among other things, as a buyers club. Okay, as a purchasing union. Okay, purchasing groups do have power in markets, and we do have the ability to affect the decision making around the products that are being offered to us. So that is a proactive approach that I propose, that gbamfs stands for. That I'm seeking more participation in. I'm seeking collaborators. I'm seeking federation heads that are willing to work on this on a more regional basis. We want to get organized. We want to make the industry come to terms with what we really want as consumers, what we really desire as gamers, as lifestyle gamers that are, not just casually interested in their market, but also for casual gamers that are underrepresented, that aren't actually invested enough to say, "Oh, hey, I'm going to take time out of my day to, to go on the forums or to go in the help and try and get support." And I'm too busy to leave a review. Right? No, this game sucked, but I don't have time to review it because I'm working too hard. I'm working 3 jobs, and I really wanted this game, and I loved this game. It like looked so good the way it was advertised, and maybe the demo was good, and then you get the game, and it doesn't contain what the demo had in it. All right, it's missing content that you see previewed. This is a common thing. I mean, you get the same thing in movie trailers. Just as an example, now, it's missing substantial parts or character or content that a reasonable person might reasonably believe should be there. All right, it's qualitatively oftentimes a different product than what we believe we're getting. All right, this is a problem in any market. All right, it's not exclusively on the consumer, on Joe Consumer, to vet things to the fullest extent that they possibly can be, because that's just not realistic. That's not realistic for every given consumer, or any in general, right? On the whole, we can do that with the assistance of professional reviewers, people that actually may play it more, or just pro gamers that want to dive in and actually publish their work. It's just, like, much more common now, and there are many great ones. Okay, who do that? I'm a fan of a lot of them. I've been watching you all, even though I have only recently decided to reactivate gbamfs and get involved in this, and I have my specific reasons for creating it. I can name names and I can get into all that. But there are certainly some sore examples out there that prompted me to say, "Hey, no, I'm really going to drop like a significant amount of time into making this right for myself and for many other people." That's like, this did not come out of nowhere. In spite of the fact I was involved in Gamergate One, I didn't just like some years later think to myself, "Oh well, that was great, and we need this again." No, I wanted to put that behind me. I felt Gamergate One was one, as I've said before. I will maintain that position. We know it was one from a variety of standpoints, but like, I wasn't reminiscing about it. Um, I wanted that. I wanted that to stay in the past. I mean, more or less. But the industry and the industry adjacent forces, the media, don't want to let a sleeping dog lie, and they want to, they want to poke the proverbial bear. They want to rile the market and the non-market, to try and get a viral message out, move product, and create controversy, because it creates that generates clicks. It's like there's rage bait, clickbait, and a lot of malign viral marketing involved. Right? These are terms that deserve to be explored further. There are actually, academic, and they're like, there's a basis for this. It's like, it's been studied, along with, like, addictive gaming patterns and stuff. So this is not like just out of the blue. It's not a theory. It requires no conspiracy. It's very much plain marketing. It's kind of marketing 101, modern marketing 101, right? They need a modern audience. Well, they need modern marketing to generate it, apparently, because those audiences aren't super good at showing up so far. Um, so yeah, there's a lot involved, and I want to win Gamergate 2. I want for us to win Gamergate 2, and what we have now that we didn't have then is there is a lot of collaboration between a lot of the major personalities, the reviewers, the streamers, kind of the gaming news coverage, covering reporters. You could call them reporters, right? Some may like that title, some may not. But we could say community reporters, right? Amateur reporters, which I would include myself in that at this point. Um, the the work they've been doing is excellent. It's awesome. So I credit you all with that. And I'm glad that you're doing it. I hope you continue it. What I'm advocating for is a more long term, organized situation that doesn't just react to industry moves, doesn't just report on industry actions, but actually, because we are the ones with the power of the purse, we have we have the market. That's us. We very reasonably, if we're willing to organize and willing to to get certain things formalized, right, based on consensus and priority, then we can lead. We can lead industry. That's what needs to happen, rather than this tit for tat stuff. In my opinion, over the media, over YouTube, social media, and in the so-called mainstream press, which nobody really trusts in general. There needs to be a different paradigm involved, in my opinion, and the only way to do that is to get out of the reactive news cycle and entertainment coverage cycle of these events. I know it's certainly very sensational, to follow up on things like DEI, right, and then Sweet Baby and all that. The fact of the matter is, um, they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and you can follow and try and you can try and counter some of the bad trends in gaming by drawing attention and scrutiny to it, which is fantastic, and that's part of our mission as well. But at the end of the day, that's kind of like countering their rage bait. Not to say it's the same thing, but it's countering it with a kind of coverage that ultimately may be a little self defeating. If we look at the long term, right? I mean, eventually, if you're successful, you shouldn't need to cover any of that stuff anymore. That would be my opinion. So what I want to see is a sustainable solution that gives industry an incentive to deal the right way with gamers first and on an ongoing basis, without the need for some of the kind of coverage and the kind of back and forth in the media, and around the media that we've seen so far. So that's in summary some of the footing of why gbamfs is important, why gbamfs matters, why I think it's a good idea. Um, Getting organized definitely did help and would help, like in Gamergate 1, to the extent people did, but a lot of it was just unnecessary. A lot of it was fratricidal. Okay, a lot of what screwed that up was it was fratricidal. There was a lot of infighting. People that were complete civilians, had no idea how to conduct themselves, over social media that was still a little bit newish in 2016. Just a little bit newish, right? Because Facebook came out, what, the mid noughts. So by the time the mid 2010s rolled around, it was, people were kind of getting accustomed to it, but it's still kind of the Wild West. Not quite like it is now, and there's just a lot of unnecessary casualties in essence. So we don't need to do that this time. I super compliment again all the major personalities that are involved in covering this now. I want to specifically acknowledge, Cabrutus. Cabrutus, you've been exemplary. You're an inspiration to everyone that followed Gamergate 1, that was involved in Gamergate 1, certainly on the right side of Gamergate 1, which is the pro gamer, pro consumer side. I've got to hand it to you. You've comported yourself with tremendous dignity and, just intelligence in this. You were put on a spot. You were put on the spot by, some malign actions of an industry, affiliated org. All right, someone just going out of their way to try and cancel you, to try and take away your games from you, which is completely untoward, inappropriate, unacceptable. It's the most egregious thing, as you've said something so much like it. The worst thing you could do, just try to take a gamer's games away from them. Like that's actually probably that's the worst thing for a gamer, that's your life, right? Like that's what you do in your spare time. Um, and yeah, that was completely wrong, and they know it, and it's been damage control ever since. Okay, it harkens back to the situation with Iran, but what's different between what happened with Iran and yourself is you didn't, you were just put on the spot out of nowhere. Okay, you were put on the spot just by somebody really effing up, going and trying to cancel you because they didn't like the fact that you were exposing publicly available information about something that's just in industry. It's just a factor that's like they're present in the industry. They're doing what they're doing, influencing game production and trying to sell their services. It's yeah, it's a little funny when it's like detected and they're like, oh, there's nothing to detect, but yeah, like they're both very confrontational in their approach, and also not not really wanting the spotlight shined on them. So that's kind of, it's a bit sus. And you did that, which is just simple market education. It's consumer education, right? That's free speech as fuck. There's nothing about that it should be cancelable. I mean, especially in a free market system. That's what we have, right? So yeah, that should be like baseline, something that's protected twice. It's free speech, and it's market it's market education, it's consumer education. So yeah, that should have been like the most protected speech ever, and somehow it's not. Somehow it's not. I'm going to go there. I'm going to say, this reminds me a little bit on the outside. It's unrelated, but it reminds me a little bit of what happened with Assange, Julian Assange. Now, not every gamer knows who he is or what he did, and it's certainly not related. I don't think he's a gamer. It's not directly related in any way except one very important one. He published information that was publicly available at the point that he published it. Okay, it was no longer kept in military custody, as had been the case before someone leaked it to him in order for him to report. So at that point, he acted as a publisher. Now, I know this is off topic, and you're not the same people, and it's not the same example. So I'm not calling out. I'm not putting a spotlight on either of you specifically. But in my mind, that parallel exists because both of you were put in a spot where you weren't doing anything that free speech shouldn't allow. Right? Freedom of the press, free speech, market education shouldn't allow for it to happen, and yet the organs of media and in the case of Assange, government came strongly against him, and media in your case of Cabrutus surely has come strongly against you, and so I find that itself very sus. That's very problematic in free speech, free country, free market system. This is stuff that needs further exploration, and it's a little academic. Okay, it's not exactly gamer time interest, but what matters is that these things are protected actions. These things are part of what helps keep a free system and a free market actually operating. So I think they're really super important to pay attention to on some level, at least to the extent that we pay attention to them, do our homework, and then can get back to gaming. Right? That's really the point. I want good games. I want to play good games. I don't necessarily want to have to concern myself with all the affairs of everything else that's going on around in the world at a given time when I'd rather be gaming. Right? And that's something we should be fully able to do. That's not really something that we should be brought into shame or hassled for wanting, as players, as a culture, and as consumers. So I'm going to let that speech kind of just stand on its own there. This is just me freestyling on all these topics. Um, there's a lot of good stuff going on right now in terms of how gamers are rising up. I do believe gamers should rise up. I believe we are rising up. I believe we are doing it in a pretty good fashion, much better than the first round. Gamergate 1 was chaos. This is not chaos. It's it's much better. I believe it can be more organized. I believe it can be made more effective still, and I believe we can put to bed, for good, these mostly media instigated, media generated, controversies, and falsehoods and farces that come out against gamers and the gaming community. Because let's face it, they are absolutely in dire straits. They are desperate for attention, clicks, subscriptions. They will say or do anything to smear any group they feel they can get away with doing that to, in order to prop up their antiquated, and I say obsolete business model. So I say we don't give that to them. I say if we do give them attention or subscriptions or anything remotely along those lines, we do it on terms that are acceptable to us, agreeable to us, that meet with our interests as gamers, consumers, as community, as people. That's how I view it, and I think it's very important that we think through and work together to make that cause effective, make that happen. And that's they're really not the targets though of target, bad word, but they're not really the target in a sense and meeting an objective, right? The objective here is not actually to deal with media. Media does need to be dealt with, and I have some experience and willingness to engage and deal with them, but they're kind of irrelevant in the long term. The goal here is to get industry to respond to gamer interest, gamer fandom, and consumer demands in terms of what we want as gamers. That's it's really it. It's really it. We just need to lead industry where we want it to go as gamers. It's so simple, and that's going to involve different processes. That's going to be collection of what we want, articulation of our interests. So there's going to be some polling. There's going to be some maybe a little bit of discussion, some consensus building, right? And then some formalization of it, so we can get a market purchasing system set up, so that we have credibility when we're dealing with these companies. They know they will move a certain amount of product, if they meet the conditions that gamers are interested in seeing met. It's not that difficult. It's not controversial. This is market 101 here. So if we have a free market, and I like to think we do, then this is completely permissible. That's what we're going to do. That's one side of it. We want fair, honest reviews, reviews by gamers for gamers. Some YouTubers are already, and not just YouTubers, but some content creators are doing that right now. Like, they're doing an outstanding job of that. I will definitely shout them out. And so that's part of it. And long term, we need to have the ability to preserve our arts. Right, we need to be able to maintain the cultural commons that are involved in the art form that is gaming. Okay, that involves archiving, that involves cataloging, right, in like a library sense. It involves artifact collection. I'm completely serious about this. Box covers, memorabilia, marketing materials. These things are culturally significant, and they're part of late 20th century American and other cultures, Japanese, European, English, German, French, the principal sources of video game development in this time period. These are our cultural artifacts. These are things that belong to us as gamers, as a global culture, and they belong to particular cultures that contributed to and realized these works of art. These are things that matter. No journalist can come and step and crap on that, and we're just going to accept that. No one can. No one should, and we won't allow it. So that's why I believe deeply that these things need to be accomplished. And there's more to it than that. I'm aware that some of the people involved in side scrollers and Craig and some other personalities on the tubes and the content creators have actually started an independent, like, community gamer award ceremony that they're going to be holding, and I think that's outstanding. I think that's the bee's knees. I compliment the shit out of you for that. That's exactly what we need. So yeah, it's gaming preservation, cultural representation, market representation. These are all things I see being done to some extent, a little bit, and that need to be done a lot more of. And so that's why we're here. That's why we're here. GBAMFs is here to coordinate, facilitate, and to some extent direct when we have the numbers. When we have the numbers to guide industry in a direction that we view to be constructive, to work with them in a constructive fashion, achieve consensus, and accomplish a mutually satisfactory reaching of goals. Theirs as businesses and creatives, and ours as consumers and players. It doesn't have to be the way the media has been portraying it, and the way the media has been creating this very negative situation, where gamers and devs are kind of at each other's throats, at least, and optically in the media. Doesn't need to be that way. It definitely shouldn't be that way. It never used to be that way. Let me just level with you. If you don't know, it never used to be that way. This is a completely more recent, modern thing, and it's very fucking bad for gaming. Straight up, it's this is not healthy. So that's where we're at with this. There's a ton more I could say, but I appreciate everyone watching to this point. And please like, comment, subscribe, and share if you believe, as I do, that these are goals that need to be accomplished. I look forward to working with, cooperating, collabing with, and just being successes with the other content creators in this space to make these goals happen. I mean, I want to see this done post haste. So there's going to be certain things where we need numbers. We're going to need funding. But there's a lot of good work already being undertaken, and I look forward to contributing my part. So I want to thank you for listening to the first, like, fireside chat from GBAMS. I'm Jay, and look forward to chatting with you more in the future. And please like, comment, subscribe, and join our org.